Now, what do you remember about your grandparents?
Well, I never met them, you know.
You never met your grandparents. Now, were they in Minnesota, or?
Well, see, on my dad's family, they came from Twin Valley. The first,
Twin Valley, Minnesota?
yeah.
Okay.
Dad was born in Twin Valley and grew up there. And then he went to Fargo to work, and that's where he met Mom, was in Fargo.
Okay.
And
But
it sounded to me like their name in Norway was Christensen at one time.
mhm.
And then when my grandpa came over, they had 3 children with the Christensen name. I mean, the third child, they switched it to Narum.
Narum.
So it was Johannes Narum, so then it was John Narum.
Okay.
I mean, Johannes Christensen changed to John.
Okay. So you never got a chance to meet your grandparents either then? But they
not
were
on the Narum side. I did get to meet Mom's grandmother.
Oh, okay. So,
But
they were in Minnesota, and both your parents were born in Minnesota, right?
Right.
Where Dad's parents were both born in Germany. No, Grandma was born in this country, but okay, that's.
See, my mom was born in Kindred. I was in North Dakota.
Oh, okay. And your dad was born then in Minnesota there?
Minnesota.
Yeah, okay.
He lived close to a reservation. He used to play ball with the Indians and dance with the Indians and that stuff.
That's where he learned to play the fiddle then, right?
Yeah, well, I guess everybody back in them days seemed to play some instrument. It looked that way to me.
Yeah. So then, what brought them out here? Well, they met in Fargo and got married in Fargo.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember what year that was roughly?
1910.
1910. Okay.
Dad was a drayman for the railroad in Fargo, and Mom was a kind of a maid or a catering service for people that entertained a lot. And she worked in Fargo, and that's how they met. And then they married, and Uncle Chris and Dad came by themselves, came out here to claim their
The homestead.
and build a shack so that and you had to live on it for about a year to claim it, you know.
Okay.
You couldn't come out and just.
And you had to make certain improvements on it. You had to dig a well, or you had to do something that made it look like you were going to live there permanently.
Yeah, and I think Dad and them came out on an immigrant train with oxen and some farm tools or farming equipment, and they landed in Buffalo Springs as far as I remember.
Okay. And where was Buffalo Springs?
South of us, I couldn't say how many miles.
Was that a town then, or was
Yeah,
it just a community?
It was a railroad station. It had a general store and a post office, and it was just little. Nothing. It doesn't even exist anymore.
Yeah, but I've heard the name Buffalo Springs a lot. So.
Now, when you want to say somebody's a little bit out of order, or you're reading too much out of the Buffalo Springs Gazette. It doesn't even exist.
So, Grandpa and his brother came out here on their own then, the first, but they were married.
They came out about in April, I think, or so.
April of 1910, or?
Yeah, I'm sure.
Somewhere in
And
there.
then they came out, the wives came in the fall.
Came in the fall.
Yeah.
So they came out and kind of built a house enough to survive on, and then they lived out here then that winter, or in the was that the houses that they used to call made out of shiplap?
Yeah, well, that's the way my brother Orville talks that it was made. It was shiplap, and that was pretty darn cold for the winter out here, and just a one-room shack, I'm sure.
And then did they ever go back then? After they came out here, they came out
They
here.
didn't go back till '29 when we got our Model A. It's the first time he'd been back to his home.
Is that
or
right?
any place back east.
Okay. So that was what, 19 years then?
Oh, that was long.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So they came out here and they both had adjoining 80 are quarters of land then?
No,
Because they're,
Chris was he was 2 miles south of us. Dad was, we were,
well then who was the one that lived right next to, there wasn't there a mile or so?
Connor that lived between
Oh,
us.
Connor, okay, okay.
Connors lived between us, and they homesteaded there before folks got in. It was about 1906 or 7 that they came.
Oh, okay,
The Polkabecks and the Connors and the McClures.
okay. And then that, so the township was then named after the Connors then,
Mhm.
that were there then. So,
Mhm.
now what was the quarter of land that Grandpa got?
Quarter land was section 10.
Section 10 of what?
He had the southeast corner of section 10.
Of section 10,
And
okay.
Harry Stegner had the northeast corner of section 10.
Then, did he then acquire any more land
Yeah,
after
he
that?
must have acquired the one west of us from a person who had, and that was our only tillable land, was the stuff like. And I always thought that was our quarter. It isn't. It's
Uh-huh.
part of the section that.
It wasn't part of the homestead,
No,
but
it wasn't.
he bought that. Did he buy any more land then after that?
I
or-
don't think so. I don't remember unless they might have had some land over east someplace. I don't know.
Okay.
But no, they didn't acquire too much more land.
So they just farmed that, and then did he have a lot of cattle?
Well, we had a nice big pasture, but we just, you had to sell your cattle to be able to live.
Uh-huh.
And so it never really got to be very big.
So, but you never had sheep?
Never had sheep.
Never had sheep, so that was it.
Well, it would require a lot of more different fencing. See, when I think about it, it was remarkable that they had the buildings there when I came into the world. I was born in 20. And they came in 10. In 10 years' time, they built all those buildings and the fences and the bridges and the schoolhouses. All that stuff was built by the time I got
Well,
into the world. I don't remember doing any of that, but all of that was built. So that was in 10 years.
10 years they got, yeah.
And they had good crops. I don't know how they got it in. They must have had them oxen that broke up that land. That must have been with a walking plow.
Okay, yeah.
They were a very temperamental team because Uncle Chris went in for a load of coal over on east of their place, and the oxen would not pull it out of the mine. So he just left them, let them stand there till they got tired of it. Come about dark, they pulled in.
They found their way home with the
Oh,
load, eh?
Yeah. They did everything possible to try and get them to pull out of there. They were kind of like a mule,
Mhm.
And if they got thirsty while they were working in the field, they took off for the creek and had a drink of water. Yeah. It was crazy.
Well, did you have many horses then, or?
Yeah, well, I think I could even name the horses yet, but I think we had at least 6 or 8 head of horses. We lost one horse, just disappeared, and another horse that did die. But, yeah, they worked awful hard for us, them horses. I know they were huge.
Uh-huh.
They were just so tall. I couldn't harness a horse myself. I could take a harness off, but I couldn't fling them
You
over
couldn't
their
get it.
back. It was just-
Oh,
But I tried to explain in my thing there how a harness was put on. It's like I say, I might not be right about my descriptions, but that's what it looked like
That's
to me.
right. That's right.
It's my story.
Yeah, that's right. You write it the way you remember it. That's exactly
That's
right.
right.
So then let's see. They homesteaded then 1910.
And they had good crops those first few years, and then they built their 2-story houses. Now, they both did things so much together.
Uh-huh.
We got a hardwood floor, they both got it. And it was built, something was built, the other one.
Uh-huh.
So they must have helped each other out a whole lot in those early years. And by 1914, I think, they had good enough crops to build their house, 2-story house. And we moved up from our shack over there, we moved a little farther south and built. And
Now
our
that's, so
house
that
was
was,
built first,
okay.
and it was a little small, so Chris added about 2 foot on the whole thing all around.
Uh-huh. So it was almost identical houses then?
Almost.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, and I think Ken was the first one born in that house. I think so.
So you were born in the old house then,
I was born in the new house.
or in the new house, okay.
Yeah. Orville
That's
was
right,
born
Ken.
in the old house, and Irene, they lost a boy in 1912.
Is that the, out at the grave out there at Lebanon Lutheran Church?
There's two graves out there. There's, I mean, Clarence was born, and he died when he was 18 months old, and I don't know what from. And then an infant was, passed away after Helen.
Oh, okay.
So there would have been 7 of us. This way is 5.
Uh-huh.
It was Orville, and Irene, and Ken, and me, and Helen. But, I don't know, I remember the roads were built, everything was taken care of. I can't, there wasn't much more done that I could see.
They had it pretty well
Since
taken
then.
care of by the time you were
Well,
born
yeah,
in 10
and
years.
then things got so darn tough that there wasn't too much room for improvement, you know.
Yeah.
They couldn't improve other than fix what was breaking.
Uh-huh.
My dad was a carpenter there. He fixed the schoolhouses, like the coal sheds during the summer, and he'd go help on a bridge, and he built the Cover House. He built the
The Cover House here in town?
no, the one out
Oh.
in the country, not the one that's out there now. It was
Oh.
one before that.
Oh, okay.
And a U-Boss burnt out, so he went and built that. It, Dad was a kind of a quiet guy. He had a real dry sense of humor. But I don't think that he, he was not really a farmer. He wanted to work with someone.
Uh-huh. He was better with a crew or whatever.
Yeah. And I think that Mom always regretted the fact that they were going to come out here, I guess, and do well, and then go back.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that after they built the house, she knew she was doomed to.
That was it. They were going to stay.
that was where they were going to stay.
Now, where did you guys go to school?
Right across the road.
Right across.
School
That was Connor number what?
2.
Connor number 2.
And Connor number 1 was over by the Pokebecks on the big hill. And then Connor number 3 was straight west of us. And that is where Orville taught school after he
After he got out of school.
I didn't know much about Orville. I don't remember much about him growing up at home at all, except that he liked to be cowboy with cowboy hat and all this kind of stuff. But I got to know him more after he got out of college and was teaching school, and he'd come home and work summers,
Uh-huh.
stuff like that with the folks.
Put in the crops and
Right.
stuff like that then, huh?
Well, he wasn't around to put in the crops, but he was down around to mine coal, haul hay, and do some harvest, something like that,
Well, now your dad was born what year?
Let's see, I would say probably 1886, I suppose.
Okay. And how
Mom
about
was
Grandma?
88.
88, okay.
Yeah.
Then now, who's the oldest? Or the
Orville.
kids?
Orville.
Or he was born what?
10.
In 10.
1910.
Okay, then who's next?
Irene.
She was born
1916, was it? Yeah, I think so. 1912. She must have been born in 1914, then Ken was born in 16.
Ken, okay.
I was born in 20. Helen was born in 22.
Oh, okay.
The only, well, the little, what would you call that, trading post. There were trading posts all over so that they could get mail
Mm-hmm.
and could get some supplies. So our trading post was Hume. over south.
South, or
East, southeast.
southeast?
Over by Parkins.
Oh, okay.
That's really, and that, you get your mail, and you could trade your butter, eggs, and cream and stuff like that. I don't know how they ever got it into any town, unless somebody came out and got it, I don't know.
Yeah.
But, that was a, and that was probably the only place they ever went to do any talking with anybody else around. Of course, I think after they got a little more settled, they got more acquainted. There were many nationalities that settled in there, you know.
Oh, is that right?
Oh, yeah, there was everything from German to Norwegian, English, Welsh, I don't know what the Bohemian.
Bohemians, okay. Ukrainians, well, the Ukrainians
Not
settled
too far.
around Belfield, though.
Yeah, right.
But now, were most of the people that came out here, come out of here from Minnesota? They came to this country, stopped in Minnesota, and or that they had to have somebody sponsor them or something to get them over to this country, and then
But yeah, it could have been. I never really asked too much about where some of these people were from. A lot of, I think some from Wisconsin. That's where Parkins, I think, came from. And Connors, I don't know. They were Irish and English, I think. That's what they were.
Oh.
But we had quite a Duke's mix. See, my folks talked Norwegian, and so did Irene and Orville when they started school. And then Mom put a damper on that. She says, this is enough of that. We talk English around here now because we've got to be able to talk to.
Got to be able to speak English in order to get it by. Okay, yeah. Yeah. Now, what would the, when you were homesteading, what was your year cycle like?
Pretty much like Hubert was mentioning there, like in the spring of the year, you put in your crop as soon as you could get it in. The sooner the better. If you got it in and had a good snowfall, that was really neat. And then it would be haying time, and you get as much hay in as you can, and we had ours stacked in a hay yard, where, like Chris Durham, these big barns with those points out in front, those are for those slings.
You lift
the hay mound.
You put all the hay in the whatever you call it up there on the top. Hay mound or
You have it come to the point like basket shape, and then pull it to the back and dump. And then you had real nice dry hay. But anyhow, it'd be haying time, and then by the time you got the hay in, then it was to uncover coal and get coal in, and try and fill up that basement as big as you could, because we had 2 windows on each side of the house. Put this coal in, and then...
So you stored your coal in the basement?
Oh, yeah. And then it would be pretty much, if there was cultivating for corn or anything of that sort, that was done then. And then came harvest, and you get all that crop in, and then it's butcher.
Did you, now, but I mean, now did you guys put yours in the grain bin too then, or did you haul it into town right away?
Oh, some went to town, I'm sure, because a person would have to be able to pay your thrashers and stuff, so you could have it. And it depended on how much room you had, and, granary-wise and all that stuff. You mean grain?
Yeah, the grain,
Yeah. Art Nissett, who had a bad leg, was one of the Nissett brothers that Dad had a lot in common with. He generally hauled the grain. Because he was had a bum leg. So... Where
would you haul it to then?
New England.
New England?
Most of the time, probably even to Buffalo Springs, I don't know. But I know they hauled grain by wagon during the winter months then. That's how come they had so darn many, we had a lot of robes and stuff to be keeping warm with when they went down. A lot of those farmers haul grain putting it all winter,
Is that okay?
If they had a good crop, this is what they, And then Dad would buy groceries or buy clothes. He'd buy our shoes without even knowing what size we had. God, I used to hate them high-top shoes,
So then the grain would go, you'd store some and sell some, and did you ever sell any Midway, or Midway, they had no way of getting grain in and out, there's no railroad there,
No
right?
railroad there, no railroad in Amadon. Yeah.
So, okay, Buffalo Springs was down on the railroad and New England was on that spur of the railroad, or was the railroad here in town then?
That and the railroad was a branch from farther down there. It was the same railroad, only it was a different branch.
Okay, but was the railroad in New England when?
Oh, I'm sure.
Okay. So basically, they brought the railroad in to haul the grain out of here then?
Yes, that's right. This railroad here, this is the way Mrs. Hamlis explained it to me. They had a drugstore. He was a pharmacist. And they came here, but they intended to go to Amadon because this railroad was going through and was going to go straight on out to Miles City, I think. It was going to be that. But then the war broke out and put a damper on all of that.
Oh, okay.
Because Amadon was a booming town then. It had 3 stores, merchandise or grocery stores. They had a theater, they had a garage, they had a livery barn, they had a bank, they had a barber shop. Yeah, it was.
So that Amadon was a bigger town
That
or
was the
going.
place to go.
Yeah.
And then World War II World War I broke out, and
World War I, okay. Okay, World War I, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd heard too that they were going to run the railroad through New England, through Amadon, and then hook up at Marmarth or something like that, back on the main line there, the one that goes through Reeder and Bowman and all of, through that area, so, in the Marmarth area, but, so.
Yeah, there were a lot of people living out there then. When I grew up, there was a lot of people in Amadon, and now there's no one.
There's nobody there.
There's 20 people living in Amadon. There's more people in school than there is
Yeah.
in the town of Amadon.
Yeah.
But it was really an exciting place to go back in the years because the courthouse was there, and I think that's the only reason Amadon is on the map now, is because the county seat is there.
And there's only what, Amadon, there's only 2 towns in Slope County, right now? Left or whatever it is, because it'd be Amadon and what, Marmarth?
I suppose it was Marmarth.
Yeah, so, huh.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of a barren. Let's see.
So you guys would do your butchering then in the fall then too, or whatever, and put it
And
out?
that was pretty lax compared to the way Brentrup took care of their meat, They made sausage and they made all kinds of things. No, we just got butchered, It was just, and I think I remember going upstairs and digging meatballs out of pure lard, and then, that's the only way you could keep it too. And then you take it and melt all of this stuff down, pour all this grease off, and try and get as much of that out. But that was the only way you could keep it, unless you canned it. And they used to can a lot of it.
Can a lot of meat?
Yeah, but not in the later years. I always kind of felt maybe Dad didn't feel good enough to. He had terrible headaches.
Mm.
And as I could look back, I thought a lot of that was laziness, but I think probably he was not well.
Mm-hmm. You just didn't, huh? What did you kids do around the homestead, for entertainment and stuff? Or?
Oh, darn.
You did. I know you did a hell of a lot of work. We won't even talk about that. Huh?
Yeah. Well, we used to build stilts
Mm-hmm.
and we'd stomp around them. Most of this stuff you had to make yourself. There was no bought toys. And so Ken was pretty handy, We'd find a couple of 2x4s and cut some blocks. You nail them on and then get some leather stirrups to hold that thing up, and then we learned to dance in them and play tag and all that sort of thing. We used to dig a lot of holes in the ground north of the house to where there was barns and stalls, and then we'd go up on the big hill south of us and find these rocks that looked like Herefords and dapple gray horses and all this kind of stuff, Well, it would take days to do this, you see, so That would help, you know. And hopscotch, we girls played a lot of hopscotch. We swam, we found a swimming hole down there in the Cannonball just south of us, but we swam a lot. That's where we learned to swim, is down at the Cannonball, all of us. And that's where we took our baths too for going to town, you know. Probably the water was dirtier than what we were when we came in, but we were in water.
You took a bath, yeah, you good.
Yeah.
Now, what'd you guys do in the wintertime?
Oh, sleigh ride and skate, and we used paper boxes, old stovepipes, shovels, stuff to go down the hill if we didn't have
Oh,
a
sleigh
sled.
riding? Okay.
Yeah, right.
What hill did you use, or where'd you?
Well, up there on 15, northwest of us, there was a real good bunch of hills to it, but then there was a long way back up too.
Yeah.
And
Then you'd ice skate down there on the Cannonball,
Yeah,
just, well, that's right,
it wasn't very much good skating. You had to have a perfect winter to have your ice get clear and good to skate on.
Uh-huh.
I think Dad was a good skater, but you know, there was a darn few winters that you could possibly get him skating done for being rough and full of snow.
Did you have to shovel the snow off the ice and all that
No,
sort of
not
stuff
really.
too?
If you had to do that, it wasn't good skating.
Is that right?
Right.
So it had to be good frozen and wind blown?
Yeah, well, it had to be clear.
Yeah.
There were times when they would find a good spot someplace, and then they'd go build a bonfire, and the kids would skate and stuff, something that. But
What did you guys played a lot of cards then in the wintertime?
we played a lot of cards in the wintertime, especially during snowstorms. And we'd have snowstorms that probably last 3 days, and then probably Kelly or Cliff, our cousin, would come over the hill and they'd play cards all night. You know,
And then stay the night and then go back home the next morning? Yeah.
And then, of course, there was the baseball season, the series in the following year. My dad was an avid baseball player, and everything got shut down for the World Series. Everybody got to a radio of some sort, and they lived that thing for the rest of the winter. This World Series. I just feel bad that he can't see what you know on TV. Now.
Yeah, can't see the, yeah.
He can't really see he'd have gone ape if he'd have seen that.
Yeah. He'd have loved baseball or any sport, I suppose, huh?
He liked sports. Orville was a good baseball player. He was a shortstop most of the time. Ken was a left-hander, so he wasn't too much on baseball.
They didn't have a left-handed glove, huh?
You're right. You didn't have the equipment. Like I wrote in that article that I said our gloves were so thin, you know, that Orville would throw a glove at me in the evening and say, "Let's play catch before it got too dark." And he wasn't really throwing them in hard, but my hand would swell up in there, you know. I said, like these gloves they got nowadays with the snoods out there, why you couldn't miss a ball 6 foot on each side of that. I said you had to have talent to play with our equipment. Right. But we did play a lot of ball in school. A lot of ball. Because there was mostly boys in the school too, and that's pretty much the way we did. But we had a lot of fun.
Now, what was your day like during school and stuff? Say in the wintertime, did you guys? Well, that's when you went to school was in the winter. Now, did you guys? You said something about boarding the teacher, and you guys fired up the stove and talk about some of that a little bit.
Well, in the later years when I was a 7th and 8th grader, the teacher had me fire for her so that it would be warm when she got there. So I'd get up real early. I'd hop up to the school, shake the ashes down, and put in some light small coal and get it going. And then I'd shut her down and go down home and eat breakfast. And I lots of times would see Mom. She was an exercise nut, you know, and fresh air person. She'd be out there doing this on the stove porch, getting her fresh air and some exercise. And then you go back to school and you did your schoolwork and played as hard as you could. And then I'd bank the stove at night up there, you know, before I left. There'd be enough heat in the schoolhouse for her to finish up what she had to do.
Uh-huh.
And she'd get on her horse and go home. I think she had 4 miles to go ride home. 3 miles. I
The
think.
teacher?
Yeah.
Would it? And then but you guys at one time housed the teacher then too?
Oh yeah, for 2 years we had I don't know why. I know Miss Severson was there, but there was a Velma Williams, and I can't figure out what. I don't remember her teaching. She could have been there before I started school.
Oh,
I have a feeling that's probably what they did, was board the teacher before. Because I asked Mary Parker. I says, Velma Williams sticks in my mind that she was at our house, and I just don't recollect ever going to school with her, so she wouldn't make any difference. But, yeah, there was trouble there, and it's like you say, you got little troubles in these little schools too, you know.
Oh, yeah.
There was someone claiming that there was showing partiality to certain kids and all this kind of stuff. Oh my, we had some long recesses because the school board had come up to have all these teachers and find out what really was going on. You know, get the kids in there to testify and all this stuff, you know. But boy, we had long recesses and we had good times. But it was kind of tough up until I know I didn't learn much in the 2nd grade because that teacher that stayed at our place, Severson, she just wasn't very good about teaching anything. She was too slow. But
Well, now you went to Connor #2 for what? Your first eight years?
9 years.
First 9 years.
Yeah, because the teacher that taught me in the 1st grade, I had a girl that couldn't speak a word of English. She was a German girl that was in the 1st grade with me. And you know, when you're young, you don't realize how hard that was for that kid. And she said that she used to stand back and listen to me, see, as to what I called things and whatever. So she learned.
You taught her English, then?
Yeah, pretty much,
Yeah.
you know. She knew so what is this? She says, I knew it was a Krummbeeren or whatever.
Yeah.
Potato or whatever it is, you know, but she didn't know how to say it in English. And then the teacher would ask me, see, then that's a potato or whatever. But yeah, she came along good. She was sharp. She was a good person too, and real talented. And then those later years, Orville was teaching school in #3, and he would ride across the country to get to school, and that was the year he bought a banjo to play. My dad bought me a guitar, and then there were lessons with it, you know, so we could learn to play the chords together. So we sang and do a lot of funny things at that time. But I never really got good at it, you know, and Orville didn't. Well, Orville was more musical than I was.
But Grandpa played the fiddle at the square dances or at the barn dances and stuff, huh?
If somebody wanted to dance to hear you play a while, that's about the way they did it. Yeah. I think he played corded. You know, and it seems funny because everybody really tried to get a bunch of singers to sing for the choir in the church out there all the time, but it's funny he didn't step forward, or maybe they didn't say, Julius, you gotta come.
Yeah.
You know?
Julius, you gotta do it, yeah.
But there had to be music in him. It wasn't in Mom.
So
Because Orville was a tenor, a real nice tenor. Irene was a great alto.
Alto, yeah.
And Helen was lead singing in all these cantatas and stuff.
Is that right?
And, yeah, good, strong voices, you know. Then here comes Ken and I. I think we were out to lunch when Dad handed out the sheet music.
Well, did Grandpa ever get involved in any politics or anything?
No, not much on that, no.
He didn't do any of that. So then what, you went to school, first 9 years out of Connor, kind of in and out. I remember you talking about
she came back and taught 3 of us in our freshman high.
Mm-hmm.
She was a good teacher, very good teacher, the best teacher I ever had in the grade. And then after that, then I went to school in Anaheim. The sophomore year, they talked us into coming in there. And it was rough going because they couldn't pay a teacher. They got a warrant instead of a check. That was to hold, until I got moved in. And I worked from a boarding room there. I stayed at Irene and Adams for the fall months, and I went up to work for the county agent.
In Amadon?
To my sophomore year. Then they shut it down then. There was nothing hardly at all going on next year. So I took correspondence the next year, and I went back to the school across the road.
Okay. That would have been what, your junior year then, or your?
That would have been my junior year.
Yeah.
And I took a table up there and put my stuff up there, so I'd have access to a dictionary and to encyclopedia and that stuff. So it's reading. And not only that, it was lots more fun to go out for recess there than to try and get this stuff done at home.
Mm-hmm.
It was really boring. I just was bored stiff. Mm-hmm. And then the fourth year, I went up to help Irene before Eileen was born. And then Orville and Dad got their heads together and went up to the Model High and see if they could get me through and finish my high school in 6 months. Actually, Orville was a godsend. He's the one that instigated a lot of this in helping out.
Talking about Orville being instrumental in getting your high school diploma.
Yeah. Education, period. And he went to the Army then. He was in the Army Air Force. They didn't have Army Air Force.
They didn't have Air Force at that time, yeah. It was all Army, and then it went to separated to Air Force or something, didn't it?
I don't know how to.
Yeah.
Of course, he taught school after he got his education, got his college. And then he got a job in the unemployment office up there in Dickinson. And then he went from there into the Western Livestock. So
And he pretty much did all.
Pretty much the way he wound up. He had a partnership or shares in that. Then he married Ann Lisco. And they had 5 children.
Okay.
Claudia.
She's living in Dickinson?
Yeah, in Dickinson. Jean is in Cavalier, Walla, something like that. And let's see, David's down in Denver. And Mary Ellen's in Denver, and oh boy, Julie.
Julie, yeah.
She's in Dickinson.
She's in Dickinson, okay. Yeah. And then let me see. I guess Irene.
Irene, she was. Oh golly, I don't know when she was married. Probably in 34 or something like that. And she lived around Amadon there, around home there for a while, and then he moved to Dickinson.
Where was Adam from?
He was from Dickinson.
Oh, Adam, okay.
Yeah, he grew up a little ways out of Dickinson.
Oh, okay. So they met what, when she was going to school in Dickinson or something, or?
No, I think she met him out here he came out to work at Mike Cupper's, and Adam was around. He bummed around with the Hosmers and got acquainted with them through dances and stuff at that time. And they had 2 kids, Johnny and Eileen.
And John's living in Dickinson, and Eileen is in Pennsylvania, right?
Right.
So, then you were next, right?
Ken.
Ken was next, okay.
Yeah. Ken, he did, after he got out of grade school, he didn't want he hated school real bad. And he just worked around on the road and in the CC camp, and then he went on to the Army. What do you call it, volunteer?
Okay, yeah, enlisted.
Enlisted, there you go. And he put in some real tough times over in Germany. You know.
So he fought in
See, Orville fought in the Asian arena, and Ken in the European.
Okay.
It's a wonder, Ken. He never talked about it, and I think I learned more about him in the Army through his little memoirs.
Oh, is that right?
Knew. No, he never talked about it. He never went to see a war show, that's for sure.
Yeah, he had enough of that war stuff. Huh?
Yeah, really, he had some close shaves, you know, we didn't know about. And they had about 10 kids, and, you know, you'd have to go all the way down.
Let's see, now Millie is
Mildred's in Washington.
in Washington, and Kenny's in Colorado. Tom got killed in Vietnam.
Right,
And then there's Bob,
yeah.
and he passed away too on, what, Christmas Eve or something?
I don't know just when, but it was kind of a freak sort of a thing.
And then there's, what, John? He's in Fort Collins, Colorado.
Well, there's Margie in there
Oh,
too.
Margie, yeah, she's in Oklahoma right now.
Yeah. And then there's Bill.
Bill? That's right, Bill was next.
Bill's in Fort Collins.
Yeah. And then John, he's in Fort Collins, and then Jim.
Well,
Oh, wait a
there's
minute, then
Kathy.
there's Kathy and Mary.
Kathy's in Montana.
Yeah.
I don't know just where. Billings, I think.
Uh-huh, that's right, she's a pharmacist.
Yeah. And who else? Well, you can say
Kathy,
Jim.
Mary.
He's in Texas, and then there's
Okay.
Mary. I think she was moved into. Oh man, did she go to Atlanta? Some. I don't
Okay.
know. It's just really
Yeah.
hard to keep up with all the kids.
Keep up with everybody.
Yeah.
Okay, then you were next in line then, right?
Right.
And we know all about you.
Yeah. Well, you're probably gonna know more about me than I want you to know. But probably when you get through reading this book, you wonder what kind of a kook have I got for a mom. Yeah.
And then, let's see,
Then
who was
Helen?
next? Huh?
And Helen,
Helen.
yeah, and she had 4 children. She's in Minneapolis. She worked for us or helped when Ron was born, and then she left shortly after that.
For Minneapolis. Any particular reason to go out there? Just
No, I guess there was, there was factories, there was building of
war materials.
war materials, right? And she went out there for that. She wonders how come she went to another cold spot. She thought maybe it was smarter if she'd have gone to Denver. And of course, she passed away pretty young too.
What do you know? What she died of?
Oh yeah, she had cancer.
She had cancer.
Pancreas.
Oh, okay. And Ken died. He had cancer of prostate cancer or something like that.
Ron,
Or?
and I don't know. He had some stomach trouble too. I don't really know. They don't know either. Terry says I always wondered what really was wrong with his stomach sort of thing.
And then Irene, what did she pass? She have a stroke or?
Well, yeah, I think it was an aneurysm.
Oh, okay.
I think that's kind of what I understand. But, yeah, we grew up out there on the prairie, and you didn't think too much about it when you were growing up there. You didn't really think too much about it, and now you think it was pretty clean, good living out there.
Yeah.
Really. I'm glad I grew up out here.
Sure. It was tough, but it was.
Yeah.
You know, yeah.
I think.
But
that-
everybody was in the same situation, so it
Yeah,
didn't
you
make
didn't-
you didn't know it was tough
Kind of
until
like this.
now.
Kind of like this saying that you didn't know you were poor until you left home.
Yeah, right.
We knew poverty before it became popular. No, it was the depression, I think. My folks never recovered from that. It was, pretty devastating when you have the dirt blowing constantly and crop failure and nothing, you're not raising anything. That had to be a pretty big. Dad was a big worrywart in the first place.
Is that right?
Yeah. And,
So he, they farmed then from what, about 1910 until 1952?
Oh.
Or?
Probably 1950, yeah.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure, because
And they sold the home place then to Walt Jacobs, who in turn has now sold it. Who's got it now?
Well, I don't know who's really on it, and it's a fellow that's raising pigs, because Walt had quite a few pig barns built out there, and from what I understand, he is raising pigs out there.
Okay.
That's about all right.
So Walt is retired now, and he's living in New England then again.
Right, he's living in
So your folks then retired, or in 50, 51, 52, somewhere in there, and they moved to New England.
Yeah.
And then they had their house built.
Well,
or did he build it?
Dad and Frankie Hike tore down a community building out here, and they used quite a bit of that lumber to build that house in here in town. And I would say he just finished it, really. It was hard to get wallboard, you know, or sheetrock and stuff. So it took a long time to get it built. And he just finished it when he got sick and passed away.
So then where did they live then in the meantime while the house was being built?
Well, they lived down in that place where we lived with them, south of town there.
At Riverside or?
No, on the other side of it, below Riverside. South side of Riverside. You know that house that's right alongside the road there? It was a Thorsgaard place.
Right
And
down
they
there by St.
rented
Mary's
that.
School?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And they rented that. We lived with them that first winter before we went out to the Millie Brentrup farm.
Okay.
And then they stayed there until they got the house built, and then they moved up there. Actually, they lived in it before it was really finished, because Dad just couldn't believe in a lot of that rent.
Yeah.
You know. But yeah, that was.
So so Grandpa then died in what year?
Boy, he must have died in 48. Jan was a baby, I think.
Oh, okay.
Couldn't have been 50 then that they.
No, that they moved into town, because see, I don't remember Grandpa Narum at all. I remember the other three, but
They must have retired, or they must have left the farm earlier.
Because he died in 48?
Yeah, he died the same year that Jan was born. She was born in 48,
48,
so it'd
yeah.
have to be.
So that house then was finished in 1948, 47, somewhere in there.
Yeah, somewhere around
And then Grandma lived in that house till when? And then, then she had the diabetes real bad, lost her leg, and after she lost her leg, then she lived with us for a while.
Well, she came and stayed with us, for a while at times.
And she stayed with Orville, and then did she stay out at Kent? And Irene? Okay.
More or less go in and get her, and she couldn't wait to get back, and it was kind of too many kids. Older people can't take the noise.
Yeah.
Yeah, really. But
and then she was in that home up there in Dickinson. I remember that. How long was she?
I would say probably about a couple years that she was there before she passed away. Yeah.
And what did she pass? What did she die?
Diabetes.
Diabetes?
Yeah. So, I think partial stroke. Cause
complications from diabetes then, I guess.
Whatever.
Yeah.
But it was,
back in those days, they died from consumption, or they had to put a name on it.
Some complained if you died in the summertime, and pneumonia if you died in the wintertime. That's about
That's it.
That's about all they knew.
Yeah.
And to go see a doctor or have a doctor come to your house, you had to be pretty sick.
Is that right?
Oh yeah, well I don't think. The only time we ever had a doctor out there was when Ken had that carbuncle on her leg, and they had to lance it because it just was not, it was huge. And then I remember being real afraid of the guy. I thought, when the doctor comes, something's real
serious.
wrong.
Yeah.
And I hid. I was gone out of the place until he left. And then Ken got to feeling pretty good then after that. So, it's crazy. Mom was the type of person that liked going places. She was an instigator, getting us to the play days. And getting things done so we could go to the show.